Leslie and I have known each other since early childhood. We grew up on the same country road in Mississippi.
I think why we're good for the community of Mississippi is because we're a product of this community. We are just two country guys, and we were embedded with what I call the diamonds of good character.
Come, join the family, and help us build the community.
Charles, what's up, man?
What's going on, brother?
Oh, man, it's going great, man. Another day, another Friday. What can I say?
Oh, brother, it's Friday already?
It is. And not only is it Friday, but it's Friday headed into Thanksgiving week next week. You know, ironically, it's not only Friday, but this would have been the Friday before Soul Bowl, or the new generation calls Capital City Classic. So a lot has changed, man. I can't remember. I think this is the first year of all the years that we've known we was on this earth that we were not together.
True.
This weekend, celebrating, getting ready Soul Bowl. So this is a year of many firsts.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Soul Bowl is Jackson State versus Alcorn.
That's right. That's right. So look, before we start today, and welcome family, glad to have you, glad you're here. Come on in, give you guys a chance to come on in. As Andrea said, our Alcorn game. But look, here's the thing. Right now, there's no doubt about it, 2020 has been a different year. It has been tough in some capacity for all of us. And in talking with just clients, friends, peers, loved ones, this has seemed 2020 for a lot of us has been a year of a lot of no's, right? Whether it's no, we're not doing that expansion. No, that promotion is not going to happen now. In fact, we're going to have to restructure. No, those business goals you had charted out for the year are probably not going to quite pan out like you thought they were. No this, no that, no this, no that. No to kids that were headed off to college. No, you're going to have to do it virtually. So you're going to stay home with mom and dad your freshman year and not really get the college experience. And we all know that when you finish 12th grade, you want to get away. It's been a year of no's. And in thinking of that, what I just wanted people to remember, no today is not no forever. You've got to keep it moving in order to get to the yeses. So that was kind of the theme and the topic for today in terms of my thought process. And I know that when you lived as many years as we had or more, any amount of years on this earth, actually, and particularly as a minority, you're no stranger to the word no. But I think how we view it, how we use our mind shift right now is even important, that we continue to say it and continue to encourage each other and others around us.
That's real sweet, Liz.
I don't know if sweet is what I was going for, Charles, but
just saying, it's real sweet. It's like this. My second to what you just said is, I'm going to second the medical team for the state of Mississippi. If you go to Mama's house for Thanksgiving, you're probably going to have to go back and bury Mama for Christmas.
Okay. That you went right at it. You went right at it.
I hear you talking real nice and sweet and all of that. At this point, if you have COVID fatigue, then you don't desire to live because you don't know what's going to happen to you if you contract COVID. So the best you can do is stay out of the way. Wash your hands, wear your mask, and social distance. Same things we've been telling you. But since everybody want to act like, we're entitled to life without COVID, then do your part. And it won't spread. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. And I think I was listening to an interview with Dr. Fauci last night. And he said, look, we've got to rethink this thing. And again, in anything worth happening, there's always a temporary sacrifice for a greater good. This is no different. He's like, stay home. He said, and another person said it this way, man, you can have some amazing your first ever virtual Thanksgiving. There's some amazing things you can do, but at least you know you're safe and you know that others are safe. And
the
that's
most amazing thing that you can do out of all of it is give yourself a chance to live.
right.
Because otherwise, you're going to find out what it's like at the pearly gates. And I would hazard to guess, I ain't throwing no stones or nothing, but some people might not be quite ready. so
Hey, I'm not quite ready. I go and step on that.
You might want to rethink what you're thinking, because if Dr. Fauci, who is the preeminent scientist, is saying don't do Thanksgiving, you might want to listen to him.
Look, all right, Robin is full of jokes today. So Robin, let me just put that up there. I'm gonna answer that one for Marsha for you. I love you. I love my sister. I love my nieces. I will not see y'all this year.
Rob,
I won't see you in Kansas.
Rob, it's gonna be a minute. It's gonna be a minute before I get on the plane, brother. Yeah.
No, and it's incredibly, for a person that both of us that enjoy family and love family, it's hard. It's hard not to. I'm never, Marsha and I started a tradition several years ago. I mean, this is the first Thanksgiving we have actually been home in years. Like, this is usually a big vacation weekend for us. This is usually I'm out.
Well, my mother's birthday is right around Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday out of all holidays. So,
but I think she sent you a message herself, didn't she? Did she tell you to stay home?
She said no Thanksgiving. So it's just that simple,
No,
whether it is my favorite holiday or not,
Well, let's make it even.
There is.
Let's paint the picture even clearer. How often do you and I see each other in the course of a year in a normal year? Right? It's like every other month.
Yeah.
We going back and forth from Dallas to Jack. We hadn't seen each other. Nah, think about it. We saw each other in January.
Last year.
Yeah. True. We didn't see each other in January. That's true.
Last year.
We were supposed to see each other in March.
That's right.
Yep. So be safe, and but yeah, it's we're close, but we're not there yet. I saw a special on the ER doctor. Now get this, and this one really hit me, because sometimes with the news you think, okay, well, if I'm super healthy, then I'm not going to have a problem if I do become infected with the virus. But here's a 28-year-old ER doctor in Grand Rapids, a marathon runner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in great shape, no underlying condition at all. Knocked off his feet. You talking about COVID? He was the guy that had to tell patients it's time for you to call your family. And here he was, having to go to the same ICU and been put up to that floor where his fellow doctors and coworkers and people he work with every day can't even come see him, and he has to call his family at 28. So we don't know, and Dr. Fauci said it best, we don't really know all there is to know about this virus yet.
No, it'll be years.
Yeah, this virus. This virus, man, this virus will do whatever it wants to do. It'll change on a dime and do some misdirection. This is. So be safe.
And then, for the first time in the life cycle of this virus, we actually have a light at the end of the tunnel, because we now know that there are at least 2 and probably more vaccines that are about to come on the market. And so that will help greatly. And should give us the last kick we need to not break the rules, to not gather inside.
Well, you would think. I want to, I've got to go here, because I have been chronicling and talking to you guys for months on top of months now, weeks on top of weeks, about just the effect that the virus had, just how devastating it is when we look at the numbers. So remember, I shared with you many months ago that Vietnam War was a 20-year war. It was over 20 years. So you think about this. Think about this for a second. You're fighting a war where you know you're going to have casualties, and over 20 years. So you know you're going to lose a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
You lost 245,000 soldiers over 20 years. Not counting how many are wounded, psychologically, physically, they came back, they never were the same. And I kept saying, guys, as deadly, as catastrophic as Vietnam was, the coronavirus is much worse. And people have laughed at me. They're like, oh, Leslie, you got to stop talking about the numbers, man. It's not going to be that bad. Well, here's where we are. And I'm sad to report, but we have actually done it. What I was hoping we wouldn't do. And this is what happens when you don't pay attention to science, when you ignore science. So let me just put it. So here it is. This is just the US, by the way. This is not world. This is just the US. 11.8 million cases. 252,000 dead in 8 months. 20 years, Corona did it in 8 months. 20 years, 8 months. So think about this from an analogy perspective. As smart as you are, just imagine as smart as you can be at 8 months old. But you're fighting the opposition that's 20 years old. And you're destroying the opposition that's 20 years old. Stay home. Stay home. There it is. It's more dangerous than Vietnam could have ever been.
The virus.
Yeah.
What
So
more?
there it is, Charles. That's just the
What more
horror.
can we say? What more can we say? I sent you a picture. The last thing I sent you. You can go ahead and put that up. Maybe we get a little levity.
Okay.
I sent you a picture of the turkey for this year.
Oh, you funny.
Yeah. It's got a powerful message though. Marsha Ramsey never fails to deliver. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control, recommends against Thanksgiving travel. So the turkeys say, we got a chance.
You know, yeah, y'all do have a chance, sir, because I'm not going to be bothering you. I'm just going to tell you. And we have, you know, I posed that question to Marsha, the resident travel agents in the house. I say, are we traveling for Thanksgiving? She's like, yep, to the kitchen.
That's right.
To the back, and if you get adventurous, you can go to the front of the backyard.
That's right. That's right. That's more like it. That is more like it.
So yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
Absolutely. Rob says, be safe. Let's do what we need to do now so that we can get back to normal quicker. The longer we delay in doing what is right and safe, the longer we will be on lockdown. I am overcoming COVID, doing much better. Folks, you don't want this stuff. Wow.
No.
There it is.
There it is. There it is.
There it is. And so the reality is, and Rob, thanks for sharing that, because, you know, I think a lot of times, you know, if it hasn't affected you directly, you can get fatigue. If it's affected you directly, you don't have fatigue.
No.
I can assure you that. If it's been anywhere near you, you don't have fatigue.
That's right. And then the other thing is, you know, I saw a nurse who was saying that, you know, because of politics and because, you know, people have been told that it's a hoax, it's a China virus, and it's this, it's that, it doesn't have a high mortality rate. She has people that she's got to tell to get on FaceTime with their family because they're about to die. Yeah. And they're like, but it's a hoax. So don't get caught up.
Please don't.
And it's too serious to let it touch you and then try to become a believer.
You put up another interesting article. Ooh, if my wife see this one, she gonna clap in support of this because she's been saying this the whole time.
Well, I was just thinking, hey.
You just wanted to just give me a one for the holidays, didn't you? Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to put it out there because
you were not thinking about me, by the way, but I'm not doing that anyway. But
hey, I mean, it's a valid question.
I'm gonna put it up there. I'm curious to see
what
you
eat in a restaurant. Don't eat inside a restaurant. And I would urge all of you to read the article, but if you don't have time, I'll give you the long and short of it. Too many opportunities to come in contact with aerosol. Too much time for it to circulate inside the building. It's too much time for spittle to get on forks, spoons, tables, plates. And for those of you who have been big believers in taking the temperature before you go in somewhere and they got a list of people with the temperature, we used to think that was okay, but now we know there are people walking around with COVID that don't have a temperature. So you could very well be in that enclosed space with them. So if you want to support your local restaurants, there's a way to do that. Order your food, call them, tell them what you want, give them your credit card, go to the curb. They will bring it to you.
And if you just must, you go in to take out, pick it up and leave, but pay in advance. So you just picking it up and go.
Yeah. And if they have an outside space, that is a whole lot better than going inside.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put it out there because I had a feeling we were going to spend some time talking about COVID, especially with the holiday coming up.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's real, and the fact that the way what we've learned about the way it transmits and is real,
Bro. All year I look forward to collard green and my mama dressing with cranberry sauce.
Ooh, what
Yeah, hold on, let me take it one step further now. We got a family tradition. On Friday we have fried catfish.
I know.
So just imagine. If we were willing to put that down, anybody that ever had my mama dressing know. It's hard, it's not fair, but we're gonna do it next year.
And look, there's nothing wrong. I just say put this up.
I can't see you, Andrea.
Oh, and then she clarified it.
Right. Yeah, and I actually have the dressing recipe somewhere. I actually make it pretty good, but not like Mama.
You make it good, man, but you don't make it like Mama.
Yeah,
but the catfish. But what I miss, and I haven't had the chance to enjoy a long time. See, I still miss the microwave, and Mama know what I'm talking about. The microwave, because while you were eating all that other stuff, I just went straight to the microwave.
Yeah, because you were eating sweets. That's what that was.
Exactly.
I wasn't going to say that out loud because Marsha probably watch.
Don't worry, Marsha shut that down, man. She shut it down. Our biggest fights have been over me wanting I want this and that. She said, "Yeah, no."
Yeah. Well, so that's COVID. I gotta talk a little bit about political hijinks because we're in silly season right now, and it's causing people a lot of heartburn. And so I figured maybe I would talk about a couple different things. First of all, President Trump is trying to subvert the will of the people. He's trying to execute a coup. For those who don't know what a coup is, that means he's trying to take over the government and go against the voters. Will it work? No. Couple things that people need to know. Most states have already laws on the book that do not allow for the state legislature to do what he's asking them to do. What is he asking them to do? He's asking them to supply a slate of Trump delegates, electors for certification, meaning that if they did that, then it will go to the House of Representatives. We talked about this before. Specifically in Michigan, there is no way that that's going to happen. They may try it, but what I will tell you is the guys who got invited to Michigan today are more likely to end up in jail for electioneering, election fraud, something along those lines if they're not really, really careful than they are to swing the election.
Well, and let's not just, I think I want to clarify something you said, those that went from Michigan to DC.
Yeah, the ones that are going today, the state house representatives that were invited. 2 gentlemen were invited to Washington today, and I know that caused a lot of heartburn for a lot of Democrats because they're like, oh my gosh, they're stealing it. Well, there's laws that are already in place that speak to this election. The only way that they would be able to do that legally is to go back in the legislature and change the law, but you can't make that law retroactive to something that's already happened. So you have to go by the law that's already in place.
Right. Well, not to mention, you're talking about political suicide if you no longer want to respect the will of the voters.
Well, and then here's the other thing that I don't hear enough from the talking heads. If they were to not certify, then that puts the Senate, United States Senate races, the House races, the state races, anything that was on that ballot that doesn't get certified, then it's all thrown out.
That's true.
So they're not going to be willing to sacrifice their own well-being because of some crazy conspiracy theory that involves hair dye, Hugo Chavez, and Dominion voting machines. And if you need any proof that Dominion voting machines are not at issue, Georgia just declared Joe Biden the winner for the second time, and they hand counted all of the ballots.
Wait a minute, and this speaks to what we talked about. So they hand counted the ballot, which was not required, by the way.
No, it wasn't.
The extra step they did, it was not required by law. They could have machine counted them. They hand counted them, and he still won by almost 13,000.
Yeah. And so here's a concrete example for our viewers. Good lawyers in Georgia, bad lawyers for the Trump campaign. When I say good lawyers, when Stacey Abrams felt like she was cheated out of the Georgia gubernatorial race, she took Raffensperger and all of those guys in the Republican Party to court. And she argued her point. And the reason that the election this time was successful is because of the consent decree that her and her team secured to make it more accessible, to make it more transparent, to have those paper ballots because you have people coming up with shenanigans. Now let's look at that juxtaposed against what's happening with the Trump legal team. At this point, they have 35 cases that they filed. They've won 2. Neither one of those 2 could actually change the election, which means they've lost around 33 cases. And I pulled out a couple different things. So if you'll see I pulled out one that talks about some townships. You see that list? If you'll put that up, I want to show you all something just from a quick legal analysis as to why this legal strategy is so flawed.
Okay. Keep talking while I find it.
Okay, I'm gonna set it up this way. When we all were in grade school, we learned our states, right? You learn the abbreviations for your states. You use abbreviations when you're sending mail. You use abbreviations when you're writing city and state, and sometimes you need to use it when you're arguing legal cases. In this particular case, the legal strategy put forth by the Republicans is to say that basically there's a discrepancy in the numbers, meaning that something happened in the black neighborhoods is what they were aiming to say. So if we exclude all of the black votes, then Trump wins by a landslide is what they say. That's what the crack squad says, the elite crack squad of attorneys. Well, there's a flaw in that argument. Sometimes you have to support your legal arguments with, this is it, blow that up because I want to scroll down. Blow it up a little bit more. I'm not going to take them through the written part. I'm going to set that up. Scroll down toward maybe the mid-third. All right, stop right there. Go back up one to that paragraph. This is the setup right here. They use the gentleman who, as an expert, to examine the data from the election. And he says, based on significant anomalies and red flags that we have observed, we believe there is a significant probability that election results have been manipulated within the Dominion Premier system in Michigan.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember, class, when I told you that you learn your abbreviations for states. MI is Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
MN is Minnesota.
Correct.
If you're going to challenge election data in Michigan, you need to use Michigan data. So I want to show you how foolish and how terrible this legal strategy is. Scroll down.
I know where you're going.
So if you see this, Lake Lillian Township, 102%. Benville Township, 350%. Oh, it looks like we got something going on here. Too many people voted, right?
Right.
So then there would be significant anomalies. But here's the gag, ladies and gentlemen. These townships are in Minnesota, which is not at question. And this was filed in a legal document.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, when you see them on television spouting off all types of conspiracy theories, that's one thing. You can take this down. Now, I just wanted to just put salt on that.
No, but I'm glad you did, because people say, well, why are you saying that you know, the lawyers were not very good in this sense? I'm not talking about them as a person. We're talking about what they put out there, because you clearly put it. I mean, you can't contest one state's results with data from another state.
Impossible.
Just
and
can't.
so that is why they've been getting laughed out of court.
So of the and just to keep you up to date, of all the lawsuits that's been filed, they won one. All the rest of them thrown out.
They won two.
They won two now?
Yeah.
Okay.
But both, one was about the time in which, you know, the ballots could be submitted
in Pennsylvania.
And then there's another about some mail-in ballots, but it's about like 700 ballots. You don't need a few more than 700 in order to affect this election.
So let me just ask you this. So in that case, which goes back to something we said last week, if what you're disputing, if the count of what you're disputing doesn't constitute enough in quantity to alter the election,
right?
Nobody's gonna bother. That's gonna get thrown out every time.
The other problem is this. As an attorney, you have a duty of fairness, truth, and integrity before the court. One of the things that I've been waiting on is for somebody to figure out that these same attorneys are running into court filing these frivolous lawsuits, and their bar association hasn't taken notice. So if you put up on the screen, what's about to happen is what no attorney wants to happen.
I know what you're talking about. Hold on.
There's a such thing as going too far, ladies and gentlemen. Because now they're going to have to spend more time than they want answering bar complaints, which threaten their license and their livelihood. There is a cost for everything. You see the screenshot that I put up?
Oh, I got it.
Okay. Congressman Bill Pascrell Jr., Democrat from New Jersey, understands how this works. He has alerted all of the states in which they have filed these frivolous lawsuits on multiple occasions that they need to be investigated. So that would mean Rudolph Giuliani and the 22 other lawyers now are going to receive letters of bar complaints from Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, New York, and Pennsylvania, putting their law license in question. You can practice law without a license, but it is a felony. So, last thing they want to do is lose their license. The other option is, and this has been talked about by several of the federal court judges, if you keep bringing these bad lawsuits, we are going to sanction you, meaning that you're going to pay a fine. You're going to pay a cost for coming in there and saying this stuff. So what you've seen is the judges have the purview, they have the right, because it's their court, to ask questions of witnesses and attorneys. It's not just a witness that takes the stand that takes an oath, because an attorney has already taken an oath. You took an oath the day you were sworn in to the bar of your state or your jurisdiction. And so now the judges are asking them questions directly, such as, are you alleging fraud? So
it's funny. It's always funny how they answer that question, though. That's even funnier to me. As a non-lawyer that just happens to hang out a whole heck of a lot with a lawyer, the reality is how they answer it, because they never can answer it and say they are. They never say yes.
But here's the thing. What you're talking about is finessing in the answer. That's cool during a press conference. The last attorney that went into court in Pennsylvania and tried to finesse the judge looked him directly in his eye and said, no, I asked you a specific question. Is your lawsuit alleging that there was fraud?
And they had to say what?
And his answer was, I am not alleging
fraud.
Because if you lie to the judge and then he writes that nice letter to the bar, then you're going to lose your license. And they don't want that.
Andrea put up a nice point here. Let me she said, how much of a parallel is this instance versus Al Gore taking 36 days to concede in the 2000 election?
That's a very excellent question. And here is why. The whole premise of the legal and political strategy in 2020 was to mirror Florida 2000. They thought they were going to have a very close election. What made Florida very different from this is that you were talking about a block of 1,000 votes that were in question for the whole entire country. If you remember Tim Russert saying it's Florida, Florida, Florida. This legal strategy was always doomed, and I think I told you this off air, Leslie, that this legal strategy did not make sense unless you got down to Pennsylvania.
That's true.
But it turns out that Joe Biden went on a winning spree. He won Arizona,
Nevada,
Georgia, and Pennsylvania, and Michigan, and Wisconsin. So then you look like a Dusseldorf when you run into court and try to allege that you're going to challenge that many ballots, because the likelihood of success in a recount is, you can statistically look at it. If it's 1,000 and under, yes, that's a solid legal strategy. If it's 1,000 and over, you really don't stand a chance. And so that's why it's not a good parallel. However, GSA, Emily, is using that as her justification for not signing the transition paperwork. She's saying, oh, there's not a clear winner. First of all, the Trump team put pressure on the legislatures in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, and in Wisconsin to not pass the law, which would have allowed them to count on the night of the election because they wanted to make it look like there was cheating. That's the first thing. It was a setup. So then they could yell cheating. We know now that the election really wasn't that close.
Well, it wasn't close at all, and in fact, the number now is over 6 million.
Yeah,
just the popular vote difference, which is incredibly not close,
and it's still being counted. The other fallacy is that ascertainment comes off of a call from television plus other things. No state ever counts all of their ballots on election night. As a matter of fact, California and New York are still counting.
Yeah.
So that was all just smoke and mirror.
Yeah.
Confuse people so that they could run the game.
So with that being said, we've had, just to clear this up for our viewers, the issue in Michigan, we have it with the election board that does the certifying. So there's 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. The initial vote was unanimous to certify.
No, the initial
vote was tied. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The initial vote was tied. Then they came back and had a second vote, which was unanimous, to go ahead and certify, which they did. They went ahead and certified. And then President Trump contacted both of the Republican representatives on the election committee. We don't know what was said, but he contacted them. They confirmed that he did call them. And then right after that, they took action to try to discount their vote and said they wanted to change their vote, essentially. I had posed this question to you, but I know some others might want the same question. Is there any legal basis for that? Can you actually change your vote once you've done it?
Man, look, you can go to McDonald's and order a Happy Meal. That does not mean you as an adult are going to get full. That was strictly for show. Okay. Once they certified, it was passed on to the state board so it could certify, which will happen on Monday. If for some reason they pull shenanigans there, the state law is very clear. The Secretary of State is going to certify and pass it to the governor.
And that date, believe it or not, that day for certification in Michigan was today. So, the reality is, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the transition. Because what I want to remind people, no matter what side you're on, Hillary Clinton faced this 4 years ago, where she was very disappointed, very, I'm sure, similar emotions to what the Trump team is feeling today, but she still came out and conceded, as difficult as it was. Now we're into the election was November 4th, November 3rd. It seemed like it's been forever now. And now we're into November the 20th. Still hadn't had a concession, which I know is not required by law. But we have not even allowed for a transition to take place with GSA. And insiders, there's been insider reports that people close to the lady that runs the GSA says she feels like she's in a no-win situation. That if she approves it, it's a problem for her. If she doesn't approve it, it's a problem for her. Have we ever had, I can't think of another situation in time where we've had anything similar to this. And is there anything legally, whether in the Constitution or in any of the legal laws that take this kind of action into effect?
Well, there is the Transition Act that was put into place because of arguments like this. You've always had contentious arguments. The closest that we've come to this was in 2000. And the end result of that is that the commission that looked at 9/11 said, had the transition been smoother, we may have avoided 9/11 altogether. I will reiterate that her saying that she's in a no-win situation is baseless, is spineless, is cowardice, and it's pretty much illegal. But I don't know that anybody's going to hold her to task for it. However, I believe she's going to have to answer questions on Monday to the government committee of the House of Representatives as to why it has not taken place. That is the first step in triggering subpoena if she doesn't show up, and then ultimately probably some type of legal action.
Okay.
People have wondered why Joe Biden has not been more forceful in filing legal action. One of the reasons why you don't do that right away, why it's a good strategy not to, is because even though there is a transition act in place, you never want to let the courts get involved where they've been court packing them. One thing you got to notice about the Republicans is you got to love this about them. Whatever they accuse you of, they've already done it. So you have to beware in that standpoint. And one thing that I would tell people is that when you look at President Trump's legal team versus Joe Biden's legal team, President-elect Joe Biden, he has Bob Bauer as his primary lead attorney. Bob Bauer is a dog that is so smart, that is so well thought. He's already game planned for all of these things. And so I would rather have him in my corner any day than somebody that's sweating out black magic marker or shooting whatever that stuff was that was coming out of his face. And then on the other side is, I will tell you, there is a pattern in practice in place. Forget the legal argument. That press conference now has dire consequences because his son, Andrew Giuliani, was there and he was COVID positive. And so now most of those attorneys are about to be moved off the battlefield anyway by their own doing. COVID gets them again. So just watch out for that. Here's something that I want to highlight, though, Liz. Here's something that I want to highlight. Every time we say that President Trump can't go any lower, he does.
Yeah.
And even though we know that ultimately Joe Biden is going to be sworn in on January 20th, and Trump is going to have to leave the White House, whether it's kicking and screaming or whether they coax him out with a cheeseburger from McDonald's. I don't know, but he will have to leave. But here is what's troubling me about this episode. This has shown racism to be at its height because the entire premise of all of these legal suits has been that black people's votes are illegal. People of color's vote are illegal. Yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing is it has shown that a lot of the things that we have taken for granted are not actually written in stone. And so there's going to have to be a revamp of how we do elections and how we set constitutional norms, because a lot of the stuff that we are relying on are not in writing. Mm-hmm. And if they are in writing, they don't have any type of enforcement teeth.
Gotcha. So Charles, I want to get to a couple questions that we made in. So we had a question by Mr. Bird that I wanted you to address.
Yes, there are discussions, Brother Bird, about using the same strategy. I will, as information comes online, I'll make sure I get it out to everyone. But we are in discussions right now. Several different groups are talking about how to implement that same strategy.
Yeah, and I'll post again that the site that we have for a list that we're building to support what's going on in Georgia, but also we'll use that same list to keep you informed of everything new that we find out too as we
yeah.
move past
then one other thing. I don't mean to interrupt you, but one other thing before I forget it. Okay. part of this terrible legal strategy, Liz, is that it is a huge grift. You've heard me talk about the grift from the campaign finance portion of it, where they're raising money to pay legal fees in the future, raising money to put into the president's PAC. Mm-hmm. Well, the attorneys are also running a huge grift because Rudy Giuliani is getting paid $20,000 a day to switch shoe polish. So if I'm getting paid $20,000 a day, don't you think I want this to stretch out as long as possible?
Well, yeah, we can stretch it out all the way to January 20th.
Right. So you have to be aware of the motives in this thing. And anybody, you should question the wherewithal of anyone that would pay an attorney $20,000 a day that hasn't argued a case in federal court in 28 years.
Say it one more time. I just want to hear you repeat that one more time. Come on, one more time.
You should question the basic sanity of anybody who would pay him $20,000 a day and he hasn't argued a case in federal court in 28 years.
Thank you.
Think about that.
Thank you. I just wanted to hear you say it because essentially, in 28 years, a lot changed.
A lot changes.
That's probably why he was waiting.
So, Liz, I listened to some of the commentators that I respect that's from the legal field.
Uh-huh.
Here's what I gathered. Rudy went in and started talking to the judge like they were homeboys. And he started talking about all the different allegations of fraud in about 11 states. And the federal judge looked him in his eye and said, "Sir, do you have anything that relates to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?" And at that point, it got real.
Look, first court appearance in decades.
But you paying him $28,000.
And he's the head of your legal team.
Paying him $20,000 a day.
$20,000 a day. Wait a minute, how many days has it been so far?
It's been 3 weeks. Yeah, it's been 3 weeks.
Man.
And then another thing that you all should know is that don't just look at the Looney Tunes clown show that was at the press conference. Look at all of the top-notch Republican attorneys that actually have some heft and some legal vibe about them. They actually know what they're doing. Not a one of them was present for that press conference.
But you know what now? If you want to question the mental sanity, I mean, Andy has a point. That wasn't the first crazy move that was made. Look, he also put a justice on the court that had no federal experience.
Well, we could talk about that in a separate vein because that's not Trump doing that. So here's why. So let's tie this up in a nice, neat bow.
Okay.
Here's why Georgia becomes so important. Because people have been suffering due to COVID. The economy has been suffering due to COVID. And people have gotten $1,200 and they're supposed to make it.
Forever.
Yeah. And in the meantime, Mitch McConnell, who is the majority leader of the Senate, has taken it up on himself to appoint judge after judge after judge after judge, including the one that Andrea is referring to, who's 33 years old. She's never tried a case. Her only claim to fame is she was one of Clarence Thomas' interns. She's been out of law school 8 years. The American Bar Association rated her as not qualified.
Wait a minute. I think you have to talk about first of all, where does that whole rating come from when the ABA does that? I mean,
well, they have a scale, and they have quite a few seasoned attorneys that practice in the federal bar that are on advisory committees to look at the background of potential nominees. Once the name is put forward, they look at their qualifications. For instance, I don't want to be a federal judge, but if you went and looked at the cases that I've actually argued cases in front of the Fifth Circuit, which is the circuit that I'm in, the Circuit of Appeals.
In New Orleans, right?
Yes. She's never argued a case anywhere.
Wait a minute, you forgot about it though. She did argue a case. She did. I'm not gonna do what I was thinking of. What I was saying. I'm gonna let it ride. But she argued a case in the backyard a couple years ago. It was a good one.
Her husband is a member of the Trump staff. He's in one of the agencies, and so this is all about cronyism. And this is about what I started to talk about, putting the bow on Georgia.
I think you just woke some people up with that one. By this comment, I think you woke some people up. Wait, she's a federal judge and never argued a case?
Ever. She was smart enough to become an intern in the United States Supreme Court, which means that she did research and she wrote some opinions or possibly helped co-write some opinions.
Yeah, that's basically it. As we like to say, oh, she knew somebody that knew somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's not the only one. There are several judges who now have lifetime appointments and they were rated as not qualified.
And I think that was the biggest and enlightening thing when you and I came back together and team to build a firm was just really looking at the landscape of judgeships and the federal system, how it's working. I'm like, because I don't know, maybe you guys did, but not being in the law field at the time, I just didn't realize that all these federal judges were lifetime appointments. I didn't. And so that was eye-opening for me. And then when I realized, who gets to appoint and how and all that goes into that, I mean, we have to vote. We have to be active in the democratic process.
For this reason. So here's how this ties back to Georgia. We need to win those 2 Senate seats if you want people to have some assistance from COVID, because they're looking out for those people that are in the stock market, moneyed interest, special interest. They don't really care about Joe Blow and his 2 babies and no bread. That's not their issue. And as long as Mitch McConnell is running the Senate, that is the posture that he's going to take towards the citizens of the United States.
All right. We got another question, Charles, from Robert.
Okay.
Put it up.
Robert, my personal opinion is that would burn a lot of his mandate trying to expand the court. Here would be my approach to it, is I would do a wholesale reform of the federal judiciary itself. And I would make it possible for rotations, meaning that if you have appointments for life, then you should be able to rotate every so many years down to the circuit courts. You got 11 circuits, I believe. Or if you do an expansion, don't just do 2, make it 20 or 21. Because each judge is responsible for responding to issues that come from those lower circuits. And to take politics out of it, the larger the number, the better chance you have of taking conservatism or liberalism out of it. It's going to be more middle of the road, and that gives everybody a greater chance. And what do I mean by that? In the circuits, when you go to the appeals court in the circuits, you don't just jump to an argument in front of the full court. You get 3 judges, and you don't know which 3 you're getting. So if you applied that same rule to the Supreme Court and you had an expanded bench of judges, then you can't stack the court one way or the other.
Yeah, I like that. Because the whole goal is to have a fair democratic process, right?
Yeah.
Where everybody has an equal voice, so it's not slanted one way or the other.
Yeah. And so here's where the curious case of Georgia ends at. We're either going to elect Ossoff and Warnock and move Biden's agenda forward, or we're going to get stuck into this whole Trumpism, because Trumpism is not going to die. It's going to fester, and you're going to see people running in state houses and running for Senate and for the House of Representatives with that same mindset. And so we need to win those seats, because Georgia is a case of demographics. The reason why the Republicans have focused so much of their energy on the judiciary is because they know, one, it's lifetime appointments, so demographics can't catch up with them. If we pack all these seats, they there until they die. The problem that they're having is people of color are together forming collaborations between Asian, African American, and Latinos, and that population is going to surpass them, and that's what's caught up with them in Georgia. And they see that happening nationwide. So they realize they may never win a national election again. That's one of the reasons why they argue for the Electoral College, which was largely a pacifier for slavery, to give those smaller states a say in how government was run. It's past due, it's time to be gone. If it were gone, then Joe Biden wins by 8 million votes, it's over.
So with that being said, you're a fan of disbanding the Electoral College at this point.
It's past its time.
Now, which is interesting, and you and I, and I think the original concept of the Electoral College, and correct me if I'm wrong, was to provide the smaller states to have fair representation and not be taken advantage of by the Californias, the Texas, the bigger states.
That's what was written in the books that we read, Liz, but that wasn't the real.
That's why I wanted you to go. That's why I said I was setting it up for you.
Yeah, that's not the real. The real was to pacify the slave states.
Let's call it the pacify the South.
Yeah. Yes.
But why? Why? Because you got to make it clear as to
they wanted
how does that pacify the South.
Because if you look at the results, Joe Biden is winning by almost 6, 7, 8 million votes by the time it's finished. Right?
Right.
But only certain states are campaigning in. You don't have to campaign in certain states. They fly over states because they're not a part of the calculation to get to 270. If you have to campaign everywhere, then that's where truly demographic representation of government comes into play.
Yeah. Case in point, how much activity do you get in the state of Mississippi?
If it's not something happening locally, it's not happening.
Maine, Rhode Island.
Maine and Rhode Island are in the calculation for that 270 usually. So they get a little bit during the primary season. But it creates minority rule. And then the other thing that you need to watch out for, Liz, is this. Basically, what Republicans are saying at this point, which is anti-democratic, is that if white people do not elect through the Republican Party, then they will hold in abeyance, meaning that they're just going to withdraw their ball and go home until a Republican president is put in place. That's what they did with Obama. That's what they're getting ready to do with Joe Biden. That's why you haven't seen them pay him the due respect of saying, Mr. President-elect. It's all a part of a larger play. They know they're on their way out, so they're going to try to hold on to the Senate, and they don't want Warnock and Ossoff on there because larger than reforming the court, the easiest thing for them to do would be to make D.C. a state. That's 2 extra senators that they know they'll never get. That's why they're blocking that, because that makes the Senate fairer, but it also tilts it away from them. And so they're playing power politics. And people need to know that. It is about healthcare. It is about immigration. But a lot of this is about minority rule. They don't trust black and brown people to run the country. Obama triggered them, and so they're going to forever do whatever they got to do to hold on to power.
Well, what do we have to do to prevent that from happening?
Win the 2 Senate seats in Georgia. So that gets us a running start out of the gate. Then you can bet that all of these lawsuits that are being filed in all these different states are going to be a reason for these state legislatures to file restrictive voting acts to exclude Black and brown people now that they see, oh, they beat us at mail-in ballots.
Folks, just in case, I've put it in the chat. If you don't know how to get started, how you can help in Georgia, we have put together a great resource for you, a site here that you can come on here, you can join, put your email address in there. We'll keep you abreast of everything. We put all the resources in here in terms of where it is, the election day, who they are, right? Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. We link you to their campaigns. How you can help right here. You can write postcards, work the phone bank, the New Georgia Project, Black Voter Matters, register to vote. You can join Stacey Abrams with Fair Fight. You can do the text bank to Georgia. So there are all those resources right there. You just click on to get involved. We've made it very easy for you. So I don't want to hear we didn't have a way to get involved. We have created a way and made a way for you to get involved. And it's right here. The link is in the chat. So there's no excuses. We have got to turn up, as we say, and make sure that we do our part to finish the business at hand, which is finish helping Georgia finish unfinished business.
To the point that Stacey Abrams was at the Versus battle last night. She popped in on live to see Jeezy battle Gucci Mane because it's just that important. You meet your voters where they are. It was 1.6 million people watching that Versus battle. It was a pretty good battle too, Liz. I know you're not into trap music, but that was a good battle. And Stacey Abrams was right there because we got to win. And here's the thing: this shouldn't be about ideology. It shouldn't be about anything. It should be just about what I just told you: power politics. Because their power is their money. They've already dropped $70 million for ads against Reverend Warnock and Jon Ossoff.
Now, you leave it to our good friend Brian to always throw something interesting on the other side of the window up here. So we're gonna close out with this last one. Brian, boy, I don't know what I'm gonna do with you. But here we go.
No, not right now. There is a thought process that says the only way to heal a party is to join a party and show them the error of their ways. But right now, their party is all about racism. And so unless you want to expose yourself to that and be the token Black that's not going to actually fix the power structure, I wouldn't touch it right now. It's toxic. It's more like a cult than it is a true two-party system.
Yeah, Brian, and a good example of that, Brian, you can look no further than in our very own state of Texas. If you look at the Republican state chair, it's a Black guy, military guy, Lieutenant Colonel
Allen West. Everybody know Allen West.
Yeah,
he was in Florida before he got ran out of Florida. Now he's in Texas, and he grifting off of them. But he's the token Black.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Any more questions? I'll take one more question, guys, if you got it in before we end for the day. One more question. Brian, I didn't catch what you were saying on that last part because I don't think you typed it up. Oh, he said why we used to be Republicans. Yes.
Well, parties change over the years. Black people used to be a part of the Republican Party because the Republican Party was the party of Abraham Lincoln, which freed the slaves. So there was a loyalty there. But then in the 60s, 50s and 60s, the Dixiecrats in the South came up with the Southern strategy to run on the basis of desegregation and putting Black people in their place. And so there was a wholesale exodus from the Republican Party. And so here we are. And now they're rerunning the Southern strategy. Trump is a lifelong racist. And so the fire that's always burning in the underbelly of America, he brings it right out front. And so he makes them right at home.
Good point. Good point. Couldn't articulate better myself. So, guys, just want to remind you one more time, we have 46 days, 24 minutes, and 37.6 and counting. I got the exact timer there. That's what we got left to make sure we finish the unfinished business in Georgia. So get involved. The website is there. Take action. We do a whole lot of talking sometimes and very little action. I had a shirt on earlier today that says "Stop talking and start doing," and I think that's what it's time for now. We have to start doing. It's not going to fix itself on its own. There's no miraculous morning you're going to wake up and it's all going to be over. We have to put the work in, and you all know that because nothing ever is given to us. We have to go out and grind. So let's finish it and do what we need to do. Charles, I will yield to you for the last words and take us on out.
I want everybody to have a very safe holiday. Scale it back. Do what you got to do so that you don't put your loved ones at risk. The time for quarantining is well past over because if you were going to go, you should have gotten tested in quarantine and then go. But CDC is recommending that you don't. As to the politics of today, 99.99% of this stuff is noise. And so the thing that we need to focus on like a laser is Georgia. And a lot of you have heard me refer to Georgia as the new Wakanda, a real live embodiment of Black and brown culture at its finest. It is important to every Black person everywhere in America that we protect those 2 Senate seats because whether Black, white, brown, Asian, whether straight, gay, other, these seats are so important because the Republican Party has decided that they're not going to help Joe Biden. They've already decided that. They are showing us who they are. So it's up to us now to show them what we can do with our vote. If you can't donate, text. If you can't text, call. If you can't call, write postcards. Everybody knows somebody in Georgia. And if you don't, everything that Leslie showed you inside of that, sign up and let's get busy because it's just that important. So with that, I would say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We'll be back sometime Friday, I guess.
We will indeed. We'll be back sometime Friday. And we'll be loving to hear what you guys did for Thanksgiving and how you did it, staying home and staying safe. And we'll share our stories. Until then, be safe, do the right thing, and get involved. And let's help Georgia bring it home. All right now.
Leslie and I have known each other since early childhood. We grew up on the same country road in Mississippi.
I think why we're good for the community of Mississippi is because we're a product of this community. We are just 2 country guys, and we were embedded with what I call the diamonds of good character.
Come, join the family, and help us build the community.